Hallman lived down the street from us, the McKays, the Pearsons. We had the Loonies. And when we first moved there, there was a lake across the road, and the Rouseys lived in that home. And I think it may have been in the early 60s when that lake was filled in and they started building, because Sarah and Jerry Williams were the first people who lived there on that side. And then we had the Gentles and Barney Marlowe and her brother lived across the street from us. Peggy Baker and Buddy lived at the top of the hill. We lived kind of across the street from the Gentles and the Marlows. And Buddy's grandmother lived on the house that was the corner of Grimes Street and Springdale. That's what it was called then. And then the Pinkstons lived on the other side of Grimes Street, and the Kittles, Chambers. I don't know if y'all remember some of these names, but Miss Liptak lived further down the road from us, and let's see, there was the Williams family. I guess I can quit talking about everybody that lived there and keep going on, but I lived on Springdale through the time that I graduated and got married, and we had a little vacant lot between our house and the Kimball's where the whole neighborhood played ball all the time. We'd get out there when we get home in the afternoons and play ball, and we'd be playing until dark. You know how, I guess it was the same way with y'all. Mother had a cowbell or would she whistle for us, and so we'd just play. And Claudia Hallman and Claudia was a little bit younger, but I always had a lot of fun with Claudia, and my sisters Jan and Kim were a good bit younger than me, but they had people in the neighborhood who were their age too. And I can remember, even though we didn't have a whole lot of snow, we'd get together and sing Christmas carols, and I know we'd go to Buddy Baker's house and they would give us hot chocolate and stuff. And when we did have some snow, because Buddy had the yard with a long backyard, he would give us little rides on his sled down through the backyard. Of course, I guess it didn't take very long for the snow to melt out, that we couldn't do that too much anymore. But I think it was when I was in the 10th grade is when they started Interstate 85, because we always walked up to North Avenue to go to school. So that really disrupted a lot of lives on Springdale Road at that time. A lot of the people on that end of the road had to move from their homes, and as a result, of course, we had to ride a school bus. There was never a school in Hapeville until that time, and we had to ride down to Cleveland Avenue on the bus and then come back up Stewart Avenue to go to school. And so that was my last couple of years in school that we rode the school bus. And I don't believe that the Cofield Bridge was completed until, it may have been when I was a senior. But I can remember walking down Oakdale Road and walking across where Cofield Bridge was supposed to be, because it was just sort of a dirt path at that time. And so I don't think it was actually paved and all until maybe after I graduated. Oh my goodness gracious. In high school, I went to North Avenue School, and of course a lot of people went to North Avenue. There was a little store at the corner of North Avenue and Oakdale, and we'd stop there in the afternoons from school. And there was also a Queens grocery store that was on South Central, that was across the railroad tracks from Stillwood, that I don't know how long that was there. Do y'all remember the Queens grocery store? I do remember that Miss Rattery, when she worked, she'd get off the bus and she'd go across the tracks to Queens, and Mr. Queen would bring her home in his car because she had too many groceries to try to go back across the track with it. And of course we'd go to the Fulton Theater, and I think Fulton Theater closed around 1958, so I was still, still in elementary school at that time. let me think here. One thing I remember on Springdale Road was before they did start Interstate 85, the GMA cadets would drive through there, I guess to make it was sort of a shortcut to Cleveland Avenue, and they'd be taking a lot of kids home. Well, the boys in my neighborhood, counting my brother Nick, who was 4 years older than me, they'd get out there and they'd start yelling bellhops all the time when they'd come by, and they'd usually just go on by. But I remember one time, I guess they had it planned. There was a bunch of cars, and they piled out of their cars and started chasing all the boys in the neighborhood, and they were running up through the woods. And of course, I was younger then, and my next door neighbor, we were standing there yelling, bellhop, you know. And of course, they were chasing Nick and them all through the woods. So I think that was about the last time Nick and them decided they were going to do that. But, I just remember that being so funny. A lot of things in high school, I was going to bring up some places that people would go a lot that I remember. Well, one thing I remember is the milk delivery that, as we were growing up. I remember they would usually come to our house about every other day with about 6 quarts of milk and leave them on the steps in the morning. I remember going to the Hapeville Drug and Chapman Drugs sometime in the afternoon after school and going to the soda fountain. And I mentioned the Fulton Theaters, going there, and going downtown on the bus to the Fox and the Rialto and the Lowe's Grand and the library downtown. And I guess I was grown up before I realized what a gem we had in being able to go to the Fox Theater. I remember when we got TV, we'd come home and want to watch American Bandstand when we'd get home. That'd be about the only thing we watched in the afternoon before we went outside. I remember going to Lake Mirror, and I think that closed when I was in elementary school. But a funny little story about that was my brother was telling me this, that when we lived on Springdale, Mr. Kimball's car was having some problems, and the boys wanted to go to Lake Mirror, but he was having some brake problems. So David and Walker and Nick and I don't know who else piled in Mr. Kimball's car, and he drove them to Lake Mirror. When he started to slow down to let them out, he couldn't stop the car, so they just opened the doors and kind of ran out of the car and left them there at Lake Mirror. And so I guess he came back and picked them up, but I just remember Nick saying they just had to open the doors, pile out of the cars, which I thought was funny. And a lot of times when Mr. Kimball and my dad would get out and cut grass, everybody would run out and take pictures of them, because it was usually my mom that cut grass or me and my brother. And so we always thought that was funny that everybody in the neighborhood would take pictures of them when they cut grass. I remember the baseball games in the park, swimming at Hapeville Pool, which it seemed like I would go to Hapeville Pool several days a week. And I remember the very first time that I was allowed to go to Hapeville Pool, my mother let me ride my bicycle with my brother Nick, and I don't know, I may have been in the first grade. But when I got to the pool, I was following my brother where he was going, and he went into the boys' locker room to change and to go through that way. You know how you had to go, the girls went in the girls, and you showered, you went out. Well, I followed him in there, and he didn't realize it, and all these boys were going all over the place because some of them were changing into their suits, and Nick turned around and screamed and told me to get out of that locker room, so I ran out the door and just jumped in the pool while I was in the deep end. So anyway, I was going blub, 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 and Nick came and pulled me out, and he said, "This is the last time you ever go into the swimming pool with me." Anyway, I did get to go after that, but I knew which way to go. But I remember the organized sports at the rec center and all the sock hops we went to at the gym, going to Stone Mountain, the Brownies and the Girl Scouts. Catherine Adams was my Girl Scout leader, and going to the Grant Park Zoo and the Cyclorama. we had the Dixie Bowl down in Hapeville that we started going to, and of course we bowled. Our bowling team in Hapeville High School would go to East Point to bowl. And Carol Stevens, I think you were on my team, bowling team, and I can't remember everybody else, but I think Claire Leach maybe bowled at that time. But anyway, that was always a lot of fun. And do y'all remember Funtown? Going roller skating, I think there was a roller skating place close to Funtown. When the Hilton Inn opened, they had a thing where you could get a membership, and we used to go swimming at the Hilton Inn all the time. And that's where I kind of had an accident. I think I was maybe in about the 9th or 10th grade. I was doing a jackknife off the board and hit the bottom of the pool, and I didn't realize I broke my front teeth, but I hit my nose and tore it up, and so that I had to go to the dentist after that and get my teeth fixed. We'd go to the Stewart Drive-In Theater all the time. When we were little, well, a lot of times we'd play at that little playground there, but then I think on Sunday nights, Mom and Dad would make us take our showers, and we'd fix sandwiches and eat in the car, and so then we'd be ready, to go to bed when we got home. Going to Rock Hill Lake when it opened down in Jonesboro. Stewart Lakewood Shopping Center was the place we went when I was in school. And going to the library that was near Stewart Lakewood. The Rio Vista, I guess everybody would go there to eat catfish. And the Rebel Chef, I remember they had something called Orange Pico that I always thought was good. Shoney's in College Park, and naturally the Wharf House, and I think the McDonald's. I think it opened in Hapeville when I was in about the 10th or 11th grade. I remember going to play putt-putt around Greenbrier, and I know there were some other putt-putt courses, but I couldn't remember where they were. Going to the Miss Georgia Spinning Wheel in East Point, the Planters Peanuts and Crystal downtown. I remember that was a big deal for us. Dad would drive us down there, and we'd go to both of those places. Well, I've probably worn my time out here, so I'll quit talking, but it was just a wonderful life living in Hapeville, and I think everybody agrees that we had I don't know if any of us ever worried about being safe. I remember going to trick-or-treat to my grandmother's on Stewart Avenue from where we lived on Springdale, walking, and Mom and Dad never worried about anything happening to us, so I think we just all had a real safe childhood and really enjoyed growing up here, and still enjoy seeing everything that's going on in Hapeville, and just seeing all the progress that's still being made here. Thank you.
Diane, you didn't mention the varsity hot dog.
And I didn't mention the fact that Patty played. I'm sorry, because Catherine and James, I think my mom and dad were introduced to them right before I was born, maybe, and I believe they were eating dinner, Catherine and James, with my mom before I was born. They took me to the hospital. I think they had spaghetti that night. But we always, growing up, were good friends with them. Their son Jay was my sister Jan's age, and they'd come over on the weekends, and we'd put little suggestions in a hat on what to do, and somebody would pull it out, and we'd do that. And I think that's how when we first started going bowling. That's how we started bowling. But Cat and James had a place down at Jackson Lake that we went to from the time they had it till they got rid of it. And James, because being the police chief in Hapeville and all, every time, I think when we started, all of us started driving, he would take us down there, show us accident pictures, and scared the heck out of us about you know, making sure that we drove correctly when we drove. So anyway, and Catherine and my mother, when they didn't have cars, they would play Scrabble over the telephone. And my cousin Tommy Hall is here, and he and my mom, he used to come over to my mother's a lot of times, and they would play Scrabble together. So, and I wanted to thank, I was so glad to see Tommy because I haven't seen him in a long time, and I was just real happy that he came. My sister Kim is here, and I want to mention, when they were talking about illnesses and deaths, Kim is married to Randy Kinsey, and Nancy Kinsey is here. She's one of my best friends, and she's married to Tommy Kinsey. And Hazel Kinsey, which I know y'all all know, is in hospice right now. So I just want y'all to have a prayer for him, and I'm just thankful that Kim was able to come, and Patsy is here. Patsy, it was Hazel's niece, and so they're all sitting here together, and I know that they've been down there with Hazel for over a week now, and I don't think she's doing real well. Naturally, if you're in hospice, you're not doing well, but if everybody would just keep her in your prayers and their family. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Anybody have any announcements they want to make?
Jane, I want to say something.
Joy wants to say something. Yeah.
Again, Joy Whitaker. I can't talk without Brian and everybody knows. Everybody in business knows it. It's just one of those things. My daddy built model trains, and I was the only person probably in Silver Hills that had a model train in their backyard. A real live steamer. He worked for Southern Railroad, and he built these from scratch. He made his own pattern. I can't even explain it to you. But I got some pictures I'd like you to look. We've lost track of the trains since Daddy died. And I would like to find them just so my children can see them. I can't buy them because it's not something you can put in your yard. But I would love to know if anybody has seen one in their travels. And if you have, you would let me know. I've got pictures of them here on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Any announcements they want to make? Don't forget our next meeting will be May 8th, right here. No comments. Well, thank you all for coming. Don? Yeah, please sign so you get a letter. Laura?
Let's thank Gene Norton and Mr. Glantz and all the people that make this possible. It gets better every month, every time we meet, it's better. This was a wonderful meeting today.
Thank you. You want to talk to Diane? Diane? Bobby Gillen wants to talk to you. Any other comments? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Be safe and going home.
Scott, right? Well, I live catty corner across the street from, I guess, the Marshalls. I live right next door to the Carol's, the Fords, and then the McCoys.
I was down to the Marshalls.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I was going to get married. Jim, asked him to come over and he said, "Are you sure you want to reconsider?" He said, "Barbara, I won't be able to go anyplace if you get there." Because I used to keep all 6 of the kids. But my parents were ready to start. Am I remembering correctly that oh, you're the only one. And then they had 3. I knew they had 4 kids. And I think Betty Marshall's the one that told me she said that she didn't think she could have kids. You know, and then that was and that's my granddad. Yeah. His was like that. He used to tour it all. He had well, it's just kind of like the one at Grant Park, if they still have it, you know. I don't think they have. Yeah. Oh, I want to know. You're talking to me? My grandfather's been gone. I'm 73 and he died when he was 78. So he's been gone. Do you remember Betty Marshall?